All right, Nick, thanks so much for it. Man, I've wanted to have you on forever, but you just go to med school down in Virginia.
Oh, yeah. I'm all over the place. It really, yeah. Well, thank you guys so much, for having me on the podcast. Super grateful to be here. And, I feel like compared to other people that you've had on here, I don't know how much experience I have, but I'll try my best.
No, I just think it's not unique. Other people deal with what you've dealt with, but
Sure.
it's not super common as far as people knowing, people going through. So why don't we I think the best way to start is just explain, high level view of what alopecia. Am I saying it right?
There you go. You got it.
Alopecia.
That's it.
I screw that name up all the time. What it is basically, and I know there's a lot of complexities to it.
Sure.
But just not everyone knows. They might know people. Like I was just talking to you earlier, Jordan Walsh on the Celtics has it.
There you go.
So you might know a few famous people.
Yeah.
Charlie Villanueva was I'm always sports, right?
Yeah.
But he was an pretty good NBA player who had it.
You got Anthony Kerrigan. He's
Yep.
like a big actor.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like, well, okay, I'll spare a lot of the medical
Especially
semantics.
you being a doctor, Sin.
But I think from like a 3,000-foot view, I would say alopecia is a autoimmune disorder that basically your body attacks hair follicles. And by attack, I kind of describe it as like sieging a castle where your hair follicle itself is actually fine, but your white blood cells kind of go around there and they like put the follicle under siege, kind of starve it of nutrients so it falls out naturally. Our hair cells do this on a regular basis, just like shedding like a dog does.
Yeah.
But basically mine is autoimmune created and it all happens at once.
Okay. It doesn't grow back. Well, it can, but...
Well, yeah. So that's a funny thing. Again, I could go into like all these like nerdy things, but it can. But it's almost the longer you go from losing it, the less likely it is to come back.
Okay.
So for me, I mean, it's been 8 years.
Yeah.
That ship has I think it's sailed.
Yeah.
But yeah. So it's
now is it varying degrees of losing hair? So some people maybe just go bald early,
That's right.
and maybe don't lose all of their hair. Is that how it works?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay.
You have alopecia areata, which is actually pretty common. I don't know the stats, but I would venture to guess probably like 20 to 30% of people have it at some point in their life. And it usually is started with some sort of environmental thing, like stress is the big one.
Okay.
Right? People get stressed. Oh, I'm losing my hair. I'm pulling my hair out. I mean, that's like, that's the thing. So, I would say areata, just small patchy hair loss. Then you got totalis and universalis, which is complete body hair loss. And that's me.
What are the percentage? The population about?
That's pretty low.
Yeah.
That's significantly less. And I don't think there's a whole lot of data to share as to how that happens and what really is different, from patchy hair loss to full body hair loss. But again, these stats I'm just kind of pulling out of the air. But
no, that's fine. I was just curious.
I'd probably say like 2 to 5% of the population, maybe a little less than that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's being a little generous, but yeah, I feel like is
there other complications that come with it besides hair loss? Other
good question
symptoms?
Yeah. So another one that you typically see is like brittle nails, or nail pitting.
Okay.
But other than that, no, it's very much cosmetic. You just like any autoimmune disease, like diabetes type 1 and stuff like that, where again, autoimmune, you are a little more predisposed to having an autoimmune disease.
Yeah.
Like lupus, which is kind of like your body, your bloodstream kind of freaking out and throwing clots and stuff like that, which is a little scary.
Yeah.
But again, it's just like any autoimmune disease. People are predisposed to your immune system kind of getting a little more deranged, if you want to call it like that, going after different things.
Yeah. So you mentioned stress. Is there other, do they know research wise, like, is it typically, because obviously people get stressed and don't necessarily,
you don't lose all your hair, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So is there anything else they know, or is it just like any other kind of thing where it can it's genetic or bio?
Well, that's a good question. I think there is a slight genetic component to it. But to be honest, because it is not a terminal illness or something that is severely plaguing the population, there's not a lot of financial incentive to look into it further.
Okay.
You know, you're not having these like crazy like heart studies like you would have for like cardiovascular issues
They're
coming
like,
out.
you're not dead. Calm down.
Totally. They're like, hey, pal, like, relax. We got other fish to fry. Absolutely. And, you know, to some extent, I get that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, who's going to financially back something that, okay, like, you know, you're getting hair loss. You know, male pattern baldness, for example, that's something that, like, okay, people really, like, go in for the road game.
Because it's a higher.
Because that, I mean, a lot of guys have that, you know?
Yeah.
I got, you know, some friends that are close to me, like they're already losing their hair, and they're early on in the game, you know. So,
you listen to sports radio, it's like gambling, erectile dysfunction,
yeah, literally,
and balding,
like, yeah, totally. So
and weight loss.
Those are the big things,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. All that to say, there's not a whole lot known about it. In fact, I would say probably 20, maybe 30 years ago, it was thought to be severely linked to GI. They thought it was something to do with your stomach and you know, the stomach, like microbiota, the microbiome, you know, that's super prevalent today. You know, we see people like, oh, I drink kombucha and all that stuff. And you're like, it tastes terrible.
Yeah, right.
So, so for right now, what we know, with, you know, the data that we have and the data that I've seen, is that it's very much autoimmune. And there are new drugs that are coming out, that can help a whole lot. I was at the, National Alopecia Foundation. They had like a little, I don't know, powwow in Chicago. There was like a little, what would you call that? A,
Conference.
Thank you. Yeah, conference.
Yeah.
And, that's basically what they were talking about, is some new drugs that were coming to market. And then there was a segment that I participated in, just kind of giving families guidance as to, you know, how to go through that with their kids. Because that's kind of a tricky, you know, it's a tricky thing, especially when you lose all your hair at a very young age.
Yeah.
You know, that's a lot of adversity that you face. And
picking
middle school is terrible, man. I don't want to go back there.
Eliminate middle school.
Yeah, truly. Yeah.
So speaking of that, so your story, when did it start becoming evident that you had it or impacting you? What age? And...
So I had patchy alopecia areata that we talked about. A lot of people have at a young age. I think it was probably say around like 2 or 3 years old.
Okay.
And we would go in to Boston Children's Hospital for, these things called hydrocortisone injections, and they wouldn't be that fun. You get like 10, 12 shots, and it usually be in my head. And the idea is to suppress the immune system in that area, and it actually was pretty successful. I would regain the hair, and you know, it'd be business as usual until another spot came up, and you'd be like, all right, you know, slot another appointment, we're going back in.
Yeah.
So I would say it started then. It was on and off for my whole life. I went through middle school. I went through high school, full head of hair, relatively. I mean, you know, you have like a quarter, maybe a dime size hair loss somewhere in your head. Kind of the traveling bald spot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because I didn't know you well back then, but I remember you had a great head of hair.
Yeah, man. I had
like
locks.
Wasn't like you were, you know.
I wasn't a full greaser, but
no. Yeah. So it's something that's pretty much been with you your whole life then.
Yeah, I would say so. And then it all kind of fell out my first year at undergrad.
Okay. So you're mostly managing it up until that point.
Yeah.
Graduate from high school.
Yeah.
Go through your summer. Now, so you went to Liberty University, which is down in Lynchburg, Virginia, so pretty far away from home.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It's a big step for you, close to your family, close to your parents. That was a stressful step, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was definitely a step out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so when was it right away?
Honestly, I think it was like the summer beforehand. I could really start feeling it. You know, what used to be like I said, like a dime, maybe like silver dollar size hair loss. I started to feel like all on the right side of my head. You can kind of I almost put my hand up to it and you could completely cover it. So, I mean, that was like 7 centimeters, you know, of hair loss. And I was like, well, this is a little different.
Yeah.
This is a little different than my average, you know, shedding. So we, you know, started keeping an eye on it. By that time, you know, I was really, really tight with my dermatologist here. And, you know, because alopecia, at least at that size, wasn't all uncommon. It was kind of just, you know, treat with the first line treatment. Or like, you know, let's get you hydrocortisone and maybe some like, you know, patches, like cream patches that you'd put on like a rash or something.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, I should probably do it. Like, we'll see you in, you know, a couple months. But when I started losing that whole side, that was like, okay,
That's
time to put the pedal to the metal and figure out other things. So oh my gosh, man, we explored so many different options for treatment, and that was an interesting ride. Definitely.
I'm sure. So this is the summer before going.
Summer before going. Yeah. And
do you think, I mean, I don't know, the dermatologist had a theory, but because you mentioned stress, obviously it's a big, even though you're in the summer, you're not there yet, but you're graduating, you know, you're leaving home.
Yeah.
You think that potentially was a factor?
I would say, I would say that definitely had a place in it. Another pretty large thing happened at that time. You've had my mom on the podcast before, and whole story.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty significant thing when my mom got sick.
Yeah.
So I would say a good amount of things kind of added up. And also that idea, you know, you're going to college and you're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? Like what?
Yeah.
I got to figure out my life.
Hair, man.
I got to get my thing. And
I can't go to college without my hair.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Totally. That was really tough. It was tough. And I think it was also good in a couple ways. Now that I think about it, you know, going into that, you know, the new friend groups, already having completely lost your hair, it definitely makes people look at you in a different way. Not, oh, this guy lost his hair. He was, you know, had a full head of hair. Now it's gone. It was more like, hey, I'm just Nick. Yeah, he's a bald guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like they met you that way.
That's right. That's right.
And you stood out a little bit, like,
oh, definitely. Cool. Like a sore thumb. Yeah, like a sore thumb.
I do that too, and I have hair. So
yeah, there you go. I call it the hat. There's like a hat phase, right? And I guess I'm wearing a hat now. People listening on the podcast, I'm wearing a hat. But I don't wear it as frequently. You know, back when I lost all my hair, that was come with me always.
The hat.
Because it's just like, you know, you really stand out.
Yeah.
And people stare at you. And it's just like something that, you know, it's hard to not take personally, but it isn't personal.
Was it all gone by the time you left?
No, I would say I was like 50-50.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, like those like.
What about eyebrows?
Eyebrows are still there.
Yeah.
Yep. You know, like those cookies that you get that are like half chocolate, half white.
Yeah, I love those.
that was my head. You can think of that. So like half.
So what did you keep it that way, or did you shave it?
Good question. I would say when the Super Bowl came around, that night, I remember the night I shaved it all.
Okay.
It was Super Bowl night of that year. And I was like, I just gotta and like accept it and try to move on.
But you were at school at that point.
Yep.
Yeah, because it's February.
Yep.
So you're heading. You're dealing with this. You're dealing with your mom going to school. Do you remember? I know. Would you say 8 years ago now? 8.
Yeah.
Wow.
8 years.
You're getting old.
Yeah, dude, seriously.
Gosh. Do you remember what that was like spiritually for you? Like, because I mean, you're a young guy.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a believer, but
yeah. So I would say, you know, everybody thinks they have, you know, really tight relationship with the Lord. Even at a young age, I don't know, maybe some people don't. For me, I was like, yeah, you know, I'm good. I'm in a good spot. You know, I don't have these like crazy existential crises like I see other people are doing. Like, you know, I was at rock bottom and then I found, you know, right. I would say for me, I felt like, you know, me and God were pretty good. You know, I prayed every night. You know, I went to church and I would like talk to my friends about Jesus and stuff like that. But it wasn't deep. It wasn't it was personal. But it wasn't like a close friend, I would say. You know?
Yeah.
It was definitely one of those things where, you know, you grew up in the church, your family goes to church, that's part of your social identity. You pray and it's a little bit personal, but it's not like, hey, it's me again, God, like every day, like what's up kind of deal, you know?
Yeah.
And when, that whole thing transpired, I want to say it got better right away, but I don't think it did. I was kind of mad. I was frustrated.
I was going to ask you. I mean, there had to have been some like, what am I?
I'm like, why? I got into the why me's and the
why now?
Why now, stuff like that. That, I feel like you're bound to think when something bad happens to you.
Could you think about it? There's never a good time to deal with that. But, if let's say you're 40, you're married, you got your social group, your job, your career, like
things are settling down.
It's still horrible.
Falling into a groove.
Yeah. But you're literally probably the greatest change, right?
That or middle school.
Yeah.
Middle school is another big one.
School, yeah. You're right. Middle school is brutal.
Yeah.
That could have been, you're right. But like just in but middle school, you're probably just like, it's hard to even really, how much am I
in general
talking to God and,
totally.
But like you're heading to college, you're just like, come on, man. Like this is hard enough.
Yeah.
It's a big enough challenge. I don't know any of these people.
Yeah.
And now I'm a half a bald guy.
Yeah, truly.
I could see where some like why me would crop up there.
No, easily. It was difficult starting every morning with like brushing my pillow off.
Yeah.
Looking in the mirror and not seeing the same person that you saw 2 weeks ago.
Were they were they trying any treatments like doctors?
Yeah. It was funny. They were like
trying everything.
Oh yeah, they were throwing the book at me. We even tried some really interesting treatment options, and this gets me to a really funny story. I don't know how much time there is.
It's what's beautiful about podcasts, man.
Yeah. So, there was when I started losing a lot of hair, they cracked the spine of their nearest like dermatology book, and they're like, okay, go all the way to the back, and they're like, okay, let's try this guy. So they tried this treatment, and it was basically topical, so like on the skin squaric acid, and it sounds like a little like like acid, right? And it came in a small little vial. I would go to the
vial. I'm out
right
now.
Yeah. I went to the chemist down the street. I like never go. Who goes to a chemist? Like I went to this guy in like a lab coat,
like,
like
Harry Potter.
Yeah, literally mixing up, some sort of big pot. So I got this squaric acid, and the idea was straight up just titrate or like plop it on like a little piece of like cotton and just swab your head with it. And the idea was almost at the same level of getting poison ivy on your skin, where you would have a pretty large reaction. Your skin would get really warm and you'd get a rash. And the idea,
itchy.
Idea behind it was like, hey, this is going to cause your immune system to almost react specifically to that the thing we're putting on your head and smoke screen it out of that area and cause it to kind of reset your immune system.
They actually had success with this?
I suppose. I think this was one of the things where we're slowly ticking down the list. Yeah. The last thing would be like oral prednisone or something like a big gun anti-immune thing where you like, okay, you put somebody on this if you give them like a new kidney.
Yeah.
A new kidney, or you really want their immune system to calm down,
right.
Right. You can obviously give prednisone for other things, but so I get this squaric acid, and every day, you're kind of putting it on. I'm like, okay, before I go to school, put it on. And, before you go to bed, put it on. And Super Bowl day came, okay? And this is the day that I shaved a lot of my head. Because again, it's like at this point, it's very, very thin.
Did you have a bet on the game, or
look
just
good?
Super Bowl?
No, I know, truly. I don't even. I think we were in it. It was 20. I think it was 20. No, it was 28. No, 2017. So we were in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I can't remember who we were playing. I don't even remember, but I just remember it was big.
The one
day.
we lost, right? Probably the Eagles.
I think so. I think it might have been the Eagles. Yeah. But I was like going to one of my buddy's parties. He was like having like a Super Bowl watch party.
Yep.
And I'm like, me and my buddy were late. We're like, we gotta go. So I'm like, okay. In my overwhelming genius, I decided instead of putting it on a cotton ball, I would just try to drip it onto my head directly. So I drip it onto my head directly, and it all goes into my right eye.
Oh.
All of it. All goes just right into my right eye.
Bunch of hair grows in your eye. I mean,
Yeah. So all this, I have all this acid in my eye, and me being, in this chem class, I'm like, oh, okay, well, what I got to do is wash my eyes out for 15 minutes. So I like tried to, this is what we do in class, what they teach us. So I go in there, didn't help.
Yeah.
And it gets pretty bad. I mean, I have like a chemical burn in my eye right now. So I end up going to the hospital. End up going to the ER. I go up to the front. My right eye's like swollen shut and it's red. And I'm like, hey, I have acid in my eye. And they look at me like I had two heads. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah. Like so they get me right back.
Yeah.
And they hooked up this thing really weird called a Morgan lens. Never seen it before. I worked in the ER before. Never seen it since. But it's basically like contacts that are hooked up to an IV bag. And they just plop onto your eyeballs.
Oh, wow.
And it washes and irrigates it. It washes it all out.
Oh,
so,
wow.
yeah, I just remember me sitting in the ER watching the Super Bowl game on the TV with my eyes practically blurry. Yeah, super blurry. And the nurse coming in and be like, hey, calm down. It's just a football game. I'm like, the TV, So, yeah, that was a funny story.
But that's when you're like, I'm done with this acid and shit.
Oh, yeah, that was it. That was the last day where I'm like, okay. You know what? It's not worth me losing my eyesight.
Yeah.
To like, obviously that was an accident, but that experience and a bunch of other things kind of made me realize, like, okay, like, how badly do you want this? Is it something that you're willing to lose a lot more for? And it wasn't necessarily like I was in danger of losing my eyes as long as I was being smart. Wasn't smart that night.
Yeah.
But I think that's what it started to come down to that ultimatum style thing where I'm like, okay, you could start, prednisone, you could start some of these big gun meds and you'll probably get your hair back, but your risk of developing some other things like cancers and other, infections goes way up, right? Because you take your immune system down. It's like, that's a huge part of you.
Yeah.
So it became like this dilemma I faced, where I'm like, is this really what I'm willing to trade? Like it becomes, and a lot of medical things, what I end up seeing is it really sometimes becomes a trade of like kind of worse or like still not that great. You have your two options are like bad, not so bad, but still bad.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, that definitely was one of the treatments that I started. I tried and it ended up not panning out a whole lot.
How did your family, especially your parents, deal with it? Were they, especially as you were trying to figure out whether to keep going and just accept it? Were they? I'm sure they were supportive, but they were like, no, let's keep trying. Or
they always were so supportive, and it really had a lot. The main conversation was me and my parents basically sitting me down. They're like, how do you feel about this? Like, think about it logically, go down the list of like, okay, so you want your hair back really bad. You take this. What do you think? Like, how do you think that's going to affect you?
Yeah.
So a lot of it was well done. I would say they did a good job kind of like not puppet mastering me, but like really letting me talk it out and like using like reason and logic. Like, okay, well, is it really worth me getting all these potential things in the past? There's not a whole lot of, at least back then, there wasn't a lot of data to support that it even came back very successfully. So you're taking this big risk. And but they were always so supportive. They were always, like, this doesn't change who you are.
Right.
And
it's not a life-threatening thing.
No, it's not. And I think a big part of seeing my mom go through what she went through gave me a lot of, like, it was perspective gaining, right?
Right.
I saw a lot of, she got really sick and she, couldn't walk for a lot of time, especially when chemo, you're going through that cycle of chemo where you're just kind of bedridden for a long time. You definitely get some perspective there. Be like, hey, I don't have hair, but at the end of the day, like, I have my health.
Yeah.
And that's a big message that I tried to send across in Chicago this year with a lot of the families that were asking, us some ideas of, how do they know their kid? Like a really great one was like, how do I know my kid is actually okay? Like as a parent, I don't have kids right now, but I can't imagine, your kid's going through something like this.
Yeah.
How do you fully know that they're okay?
Yeah.
They'll tell, hey, Dad, I'm fine. Like,
fine, but
relax. But how do you know they're actually okay? So, that's definitely something, that I really had a tough time kind of wrestling with. Because, with me, my family kind of just did it and I took it at face value. And then I was like, okay, like continue to, there's a lot more on my plate that a lot of their support kind of went under the radar with me, I would say, just because, there was so much going on and I was worried about that a lot. But
well, I think though you mentioned physically, it's not the same as saying having cancer or something like that. Praise God. But a lot of the challenge has got to be the emotional, so maybe talk a little bit about that, like, especially in the beginning. I mean, we'll get to like how you're feeling today because there's still challenges, but as you're first adjusting to that, shave your head off, your hair off, all that. What are the emotional challenges with that? Like what kinds of things, that you might have said, I'm fine, but inside, it was hard.
Yeah. I mean, self-confidence was a big thing. Like I said, I mean, I had that hat time period where I just wouldn't go out without a hat. If I didn't have my hat with me, it took me way, way down on the self-confidence list.
Yeah.
And, I think I see that with a lot of people that are balding, and it's just like, that's a good reaction, to have, is just to conceal it and not talk to people about it, pretend like everything's fine.
Because it is true that there's worse things, but absolutely. At the same time, like we always talk about, like it doesn't belittle that it's still hard. Yeah. And so I think with something like that, when you have a life-threatening disease, it's hard to poo-poo that. I mean, people try, but it's like people are going to be concerned. Yeah. But when you don't, you're like, all right, perspective, but it doesn't take away the fact that you still feel like, well, am I look weird? Am I going to get a girlfriend? But back then, you're engaged now, but I mean, it has to be all of that going through your mind. It's still hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, in that time period, I definitely looked for others' affirmation a lot. Whether that was, with friends, with how I looked, whether I thought I was attractive or not, affirmation from others was very important for me to be like, hey, listen, like, you're all right. Come to find out, that's not what matters. Affirmation from others. It's, from a lot of that, I found that, affirmation from the Lord that you get from Jesus is infinite, is so much more valuable, especially when it comes to just like where you find your hope. Do you find your acceptance in how people see you, or do you find your acceptance in the Lord who, sent his son to die for you? And that's a really tough pill to swallow, especially for, a young guy who just wants to fit in. It's really tough. And I can't say that I haven't fully figured out yet, right?
Well, who does? But
but I
do you think it helped that you were at Liberty, where you were constantly listening to, whether it's sermons or because you're constantly immersed by that?
I think it was a little bit of yes and no. Because there's all the time like, oh yeah, like God moves mountains, he's got this. I'm like, well, then why isn't he giving me my hair back? I went to church, and my church, it's Calvary Chapel, Lynchburg.
Yep.
And the pastor there, Troy Warner, fantastic pastor, does a great job, and he anointed me. And we prayed together, like, please, Lord, please give Nick's hair back. And in that unanswered prayer, it was very difficult. It was difficult to like resolve, like, okay, like, God, like, I prayed to you so many times. I've asked you just to heal me, and it hasn't happened.
Right.
And you know, how
And
do
it would take nothing.
Yeah.
Guys just be like, hair.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
and he said no, at least for now.
yeah, that's right. And it was difficult. It was difficult to reconcile that. I'm like, okay, I hear all these things at Liberty that they're talking about.
Yeah.
I hear all these things that, you know, Pastor Troy's talking about and all that. And it wasn't necessarily like, oh,
It wasn't health, wealth.
it wasn't like, yeah, totally.
I know what you mean. It's like God can do it.
Yeah, God can do it. And,
Yeah.
just, you know, you got to pray. And if it's really, but the big thing that I don't think I really caught was if it's your will, you know, Lord, if it's your will, please heal him.
Right.
And that's a really tough thing. It's like, okay, well, I want to be healed. That's my will.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what, Lord, what's your will?
And it's hard. It's got to be hard. Just like any situation similar to that is like, why wouldn't it be God's will?
Yeah.
He loves me.
Yeah.
Right. I believe that. Like your parents would give you hair back like that.
Right.
Right. Because they have a human perspective. They love you. They know that would make your life better.
Yeah.
So they would do it if they could. Right. A doctor would. I would.
Yeah.
But God's the only one who can and says, no.
Right.
That's hard to deal with.
It is. It was super tough. But honestly, had I not gone through that, there are so many things where I could sit back, you know, armchair psychologist, and be like, well, I wouldn't have learned this valuable lesson had I had hair. I wouldn't have, this would have, like, I think a lot of lessons have been expedited for me that I would have learned a lot later.
Like what?
Yeah. So I would say number one is where you find your affirmation.
Yeah.
That one is just, again, still tough, right? It's
Do you
not a
feel
thing
like,
I
you
definitely
were
don't have to figure
high
it out.
school, so it's kind of common anyway, but do you feel like you kind of had a propensity for that anyway before?
Totally.
Yeah.
100%.
And so it just got worse.
Oh yeah, it did. It really did.
Yeah.
And I think that lesson that, you know, you learn that, listen, like, you could have so many people that, you know, think you're the coolest. And I, you know, definitely have my fair share of friends, and, you know, but at the end of the day, like, those people that seemingly have it all in terms of popularity or stuff like that, there's so much emptiness there, right? There's so many things that you're like, wait a minute, like, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't fit with the worldview that I created in, like, high school. Like, you should have everything you want. Why are you upset? Like, why are you mad? You know? And
Right.
I feel like you see that a lot with celebrities today.
Rich and famous
Right?
people, some of the most miserable people on the planet.
Right. So, you know, that was a big lesson that I learned, and it's still being learned today. Don't get it twisted. You know, I definitely don't have it figured out. There are times where it, you know, feels nice to be the center of attention. It feels nice to, you know, be in a really fun friend group, you know, that everybody wants to be like, oh yeah, let's go hang out here. And but it's something that's one of the lessons I learned. Let me think. I would say another big one is you're your biggest critic. For me, you know, losing my hair and having a low self-esteem because of it, I thought of everyone seeing me as the guy with alopecia, as my big personality trait.
That's your identity.
You know?
Yeah.
And I'm like looking in the mirror, I'm like, oh gosh, like, alopecia dude coming through kind of deal. And you're like, you don't really realize that is a trait that you have. It does not make it who you are, right? That's like the classic, you know, tried and true thing people say is like, you know, you are not your disease. And it really is true.
It's true. It's true.
It's difficult to sometimes
It's a hard
swallow.
lesson. Yeah.
But you know,
especially when it's physical.
Yeah.
Like you know.
Absolutely.
And
it's right up in front.
Because as much as we say our physical characteristics are not our identity, which they aren't, boy, we spend a lot of time and money, even believers, right? Yeah. Makeup and hair. And I'm not saying that stuff's bad to an extent, right? I mean, looking nice is fine. But it is very important to all of us for some reason, even though we preach, it's not our identity. Right. Well, then why do you care?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, I talked with one of my buddies. He lives in Florida now, but he was talking to me like, honestly, you know, I couldn't even imagine you with hair. Yeah. You know, he's like, that's how I know you. Yeah. And then my buddy who lives in LA was like, honestly, I don't know how I'd feel. I don't think I'd want you to have hair. I'm like, okay, well, I don't remember asking you, but but you know,
but
but truly, and these are all like really sweet comments that you just don't take really deeply until you like, I don't know. For me, I was like, okay, yeah, okay, pal, you know. But if you think about them, it's just like it truly is like that's just one part of you, and that's how people see you, and that's as deep as it gets, truly. It's not one of those things that
I would imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would imagine that it's most impactful when you first meet somebody.
Yeah.
Right? Because if they're like, oh, there's something, look different, whatever, and maybe they don't say it, but you can tell.
Yeah.
Because I think for me, probably the first time I saw you after you had no hair, it was a little jarring, but it's like almost like I don't even think about it now when I see you. I'm not like, oh yeah, you do, like it's just it looked kind of like your buddies, but I didn't know you, but I certainly knew what you looked like with hair.
Yeah.
Saw you in school and all that, and so for me, it's like it's not even it's just who you are, like you said.
Totally.
I guess it'd be different if like someone didn't, I don't know, if like there was a huge scar and like physical characteristics can be jarring regardless, but for me. But so I would imagine it still happens when you first meet people.
Absolutely. I feel like that initial maybe 1 or 2 seconds of processing that you see people go through of like, oh, this guy looks different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is he? I've had people when I worked in the ER, there'd be people coming in looking at me like, oh my gosh, you're a cancer patient. How are you doing? And you're like, oh gosh, like, no, that's not the case.
Yeah. They're doing a fundraiser for me.
Yeah. One of the guys, when I first lost my hair, came to me, and he's a really nice guy. He's a pastor down in Virginia, and he also has alopecia. And he was like, hey man, has anybody like come to try to pay for your dinner yet? And he's like, yeah, people are gonna try to pay for your dinner thinking that you're really sick. And I was like, he's like, don't do it. But he's just like, he's like, I guess that's a benefit. And I was like, oh, okay.
Fatten you up.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So I think a lot of it just comes from the fact, like you said, it's jarring maybe because you're just not used to it. I will say that maybe what I've seen in recent years is a lot less of that, because I feel like you said, in the Celtics, I mean,
it's a little bit more common.
It's getting more common, which is interesting. Why it's getting more common, I'm not sure. There's a lot of an unhealthy food and unhealthy pollutants that we're exposed to that you could talk about, but I really don't know. But I feel like people are more used to seeing that than they were. And I met a lot more people.
I also think though, as you get older, certainly not old, but as you get older, it's more and more common where someone might be fully bald. They might have, obviously they have their eyebrows, they might have facial hair,
sure.
But like, so initially it's not a weird thing. Oh, he's bald. And then you might be like, something else. Like, oh, but but when you're, 18, that's a lot less likely to have like a fully bald 18-year-old.
Yeah. Definitely interesting to see that.
Yeah.
Like
you said, you're immediately probably going to think cancer.
Yeah.
But you're in such good shape. It's not like you're thin and look emaciated.
Yeah. No, that's right. It definitely, people, I think that for a lot of people, that goes through their head, right? They're like, okay, I go through, and that's just normally how your brain works. You go through, okay, what similarities does this person have? Okay. People going through chemotherapy. And then you go down, okay, this doesn't really fit. You kind of see those people like kind of going
trying
through,
to process it.
What is that? What's going on?
And then you probably just people. You got some people who are just straight up like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, that's happened in the past. Or like, the like the classic, like, oh yeah, like, so when's your hair coming back? Like just the questions that, people just like will shoot off and not really see that as being like a comment that's like, I don't know, offensive, but it's just more like, just a
they're
genuine
just asking
question.
But it's
it's
a casual question about something that's anything but casual for the person going through it.
And I remember really well when I was another question that was really good in Chicago was just like, this girl had recently lost her hair, and you could tell that she was really struggling with it, and that was a question she asked this little panel, and she was like, how old was she? She was probably about 14, 15.
For girls, it's gotta be even harder.
Oh my gosh. That's what I was going to say later is just like, I'm blessed that I'm a male.
Yeah.
and not a girl, where hair is a very large piece of your identity.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But I remember her asking us, like, you know, like, what do I do about the stairs? Because that's such a tough thing, especially for someone who's just losing their hair, right? And she had a hat on, right? And it was just like, what do I do about the people that just like stare at you? And especially like little kids. Again, little kids would just be like,
Yeah.
lock on like lasers on you, and you're like, oh. I mean, it's a tough question
Because there's nothing you can do about the stairs.
No, right? No, nothing you can do, and nothing you can do about the mommy. Like, what is that? Like, what?
Yeah.
You know. And at that point, you know, it's really tough. It's tough to answer that question, you know, because, gosh, what do you do? You're not gonna. I feel like what I've found for kids, if it happens to be in public, and honestly, I don't know how much it's happened to me where it's like been very blatant. There's definitely like, you know, you'll see kids look at me, look at their mom, say something, their mom looks at me and then talks. You know, it's like explaining like, oh, that person.
Little kids.
It's just
Little kids, whatever. But
yeah.
It's when like adults stare.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, come on, get yourself together.
Yeah. But truly, I don't know how many times that's happened to me. You know, but that's a really tough thing, especially when, you know, maybe you had a good day and you're feeling pretty good, and then that happens and that instantly brings you down.
Yeah.
So to that, I think we were just like, you need to learn to, and this is like such a big thing, like, oh, just figure it out. Like, you know, it's like one of those things where like, okay, just learn to be okay and realize that that's not who you are.
Right.
Maybe it shows, just like everybody's got their things, you know, whether it's medical, whether it's psychological, everybody's got something they struggle with. Totally. Right. And it's, I mean, that's the purpose of this podcast, to share like how to go through these things.
Right.
So it's like, whether mine is very visual, you know, and it comes across the minute you see me, or whether it, you know, after months of talking to somebody, you realize, oh, this person not playing with a full deck of cards,
or stutter, you know,
or stutter, you know, something verbal, and it's just like everybody's got something they struggle with, you know, but learning to like be loving of the body God has given you, and understand that you are put here for a reason. You're you know, this is a very classic talking point where just like, but it's true. It's like you know, God has given you this cross to bear, and it is your job to bear it with honor, and to bear it with courage, and when I say, you know, when those people ask you like what you do about the stairs, it's something where you just you be kind, and you share the love of God, you know, and you take that for what it is, and it's just curiosity. I would say 99% of the time. You always got that jerk, and that jerk's gonna find something about you, whether you're bald, whether you got hair or not, right?
Right. Yeah. What do you want to spend any time with that jerk for anyway?
Yeah.
You know, she's just 14. That's just
tough, man. Yeah.
Going to school and the whole thing.
Yeah.
You had mentioned to me once recently that now sometimes the joking can like, not, you know, you have a good sense of humor. You're not like super sensitive where you're like, don't say anything, but like there's times where it's like, all right, like, you know, when someone makes a crack.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, it's just, it's one of those things where people make jokes about, you know, weight or hair or something like that. And it's truly just, you know, people trying to be fun and like get a laugh out of people. And sometimes it can be a cheap laugh where you're like, you know, like, oh, when's that happening? When are you getting your hair back or something like that? And it's like, oh, it's meant as like a fun thing. And I've been told in the past that I have alopecia and I bear it well. And I have a personality that makes people feel comfortable, which I'm really happy about. And I think that's great. And sometimes that makes people like, okay, well, maybe he's probably chill with me joking about this aspect. And to some, you know, sometimes it's fine. But there are other days where, you know, you're just having a bad day. Yeah. And that extra thing could be that last straw, man, you know? Yeah. And I feel like that's just like a lot of other people, you know, I guess you again, if someone has like diabetes or something, you know, like roast them about their diabetes, but I'm trying to think of like a good example.
Stop eating that donut.
Yeah. But
I think it's a good lesson for all of us in that, and I'm front and center because it's like you have a sense of humor and you joke and you do it and I think that's okay, but you have to be aware. Everybody, and just be as aware as you can be of someone's sensitivity of something, and or just like a physical feature or something that's like you said, fat. Well, maybe a joke about fat people, but like to joke about someone's waist is not a great idea.
No, probably not, right? It's
especially not a girl.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
really anybody, guys will be like laugh it off, but nobody wants to be called fat,
Yeah, and I think it takes a little bit on both ends, if I'm going to be honest. It takes a little bit from the people who may be a little more sensitive, towards those things. Be like, hey, listen, this person, that wasn't their intention.
Right.
They're just trying to be funny.
Right.
Like there's no harmful things done, and I think I feel like that's a big thing that isn't talked about a whole lot. It's like it is very important to be, like you said, very sensitive towards other people. I think if
you also don't want a force field around you.
Absolutely not,
because then you wouldn't have a genuine relationship.
Yeah. So it's like I think there's a good balance.
Yeah.
With that.
Well, I think though too for you, I think what you're saying is not that you get angry unless someone's really mean spirited about it, but it's not like you're like angry at someone who made a joke, but it can still hurt.
Yeah.
And you're like, I know they didn't mean it, but it still hurts.
Yeah,
and that's just, I guess, part of it, right? Yeah. Is whatever you're going through, there's no enemy out there. You're just, it just hurts and emotionally. And
absolutely.
You walk through that. So from now, kind of as you look back and even as you're going through it now, what God did say no. Or has said no up to this point.
Yeah.
We'll see. Like you said, the longer it goes, the less likely. But God's like, okay.
So what?
Yeah. Try me.
Mountains.
Yeah. But like you don't know this answer, but do you have any ideas now that you've gone through it for 8 years or this part of it for 8 years of why maybe he has and is saying no?
Gosh. I think there are a couple of reasons, and then I'm really grateful for those reasons. I would say number one is to really grow my faith, grow it to the point where, like I said, it's no longer like a once in a while conversation. Everybody's got valleys and peaks in their faith, right? People go through those things, but I think going through something like that, especially with my mom, it gets you close to the Lord and it gets you more on a deeper personal relationship, right? I feel like you grow in the struggles, right? The pressure makes diamonds kind of thing. So for that reason, I'm grateful that I've been given this cross to bear. And, I always pray that I bear it with courage and give grace, but I would say another thing that I've, learned, I'm trying to think, I just had it in my head now, it went away. From my mom, when she was going through chemo, losing hair, having a buddy, I guess, that had it as well was really cool.
Yeah.
Being a light to family members in my life that maybe, had a faith similar to mine where it was like, okay, that's who I am. I'm a Christian. I pray once a week. I pray when I go to church, on Christmas Eve and stuff like that. Kind of seeing somebody go through that. I never realized how many eyes were on me in my family about this. And it was really cool. Again, there are areas where I did not deal with it in grace, where areas that like I really could have done better. But I would say I'm very grateful to have gone through this, to share the good word with people who, maybe didn't realize, okay, why is this, how is Nick dealing with this so well or something like that? Like there must be something deeper.
Right.
And I think that I'm really grateful for that because I feel like in those people's lives, they've gotten closer to Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's something that I would do it all again.
Yeah.
Right? Some salvation is far more important than someone's hair.
Right.
So
how did you end up getting hooked up with the conference in Chicago?
Yeah, that's a good question. Since I had lost it fully, you're going online, you're Googling like what I can do, people around me, and the Alopecia Foundation keeps coming up. And I always was like, okay, I'll maybe, see what they have to offer. And as I continued to go on with my treatments and my walk with this, I feel like I became better versed on how to deal with it, how to help other people with it. And the past couple of years, I've been really feeling called to just go and like try to help other little, like smaller children or people that are going through this.
Yeah.
Because it's a tough thing. Not a lot of people experience, and it's an interesting dynamic once you have it. Like how you go through life, how you talk to other, well, not talk to other people, but like if someone asks you, you know, what's a good way to talk about it to a smaller age group, to an older age group? Like how do you change it so that people don't freak out? I'm like, am I going to get sick? Kind of deal.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that whole thing started. I applied to be a mentor for young kids with alopecia through the app or the website, and some lady, she's really sweet. She got back to me and was like, hey, I would love to do an interview with you, see if you're a right fit. There's a background check, of course, that goes into it. And in my interview, I must have sold her. I don't know. But she was like, there's a conference going on. We'd love to have you be on a panel just for young kids and parents with that. And again, super honored to be there, because at the end of the day.
Was it specifically for children and families?
Yeah, I think
conference?
I would say like 85% of people there were young kids that had alopecia. And it was the spot that I got put on was a really popular one, apparently, and a lot of people coming, just a lot of parents with a lot of questions. And I'm just really grateful that I was able to add to the conversation. There were plenty of really amazing people there that shared, and it was really cool because I actually going up to that was really concerned on how I'd share my faith in that scenario. NAF is a secular organization. It's they don't there's of course not telling you not to share how you feel, but it's always difficult going in there because you have people from all varying thoughts and belief systems. And
you don't want to come across as a preacher.
No, you don't. And that's what I was worried about. And I was praying beforehand, like, Lord, give me the words to speak, and just I know you'll do the rest. And I went up there, and I was basically, one of the questions was, how do I make my child feel more normal? I guess, in their class. And how do I help my kids through this tough time, right? There were people, I would say on the panel, it was like a 50-50 split between people who had their hair come back and people who didn't.
Okay.
But everybody on there at one point had full hair loss. And the main thing that we said about that was getting involved in a really good community. And I feel like that was my, like, dang, there it is. All right, this is my time. So I basically was like, for me, it's my church. It's the people that, I go to church with, or my Christian community. I find a lot of, comfort in them and in the word. And just like that, people on the panel started speaking up. And this one girl who was a little quiet started talking a lot. And she was like, yeah, me too. Like, I'm a Christian. The Lord's got me, kind of deal. And I was like, okay. So we, like, everybody on the panel started speaking up. And it was really cool just seeing how just like that one little mustard seed of faith that, like, this is what the Lord, like, I'm going to just have the Lord take this. I give this to the Lord, and how it just inspires other people to also get up and talk. And
well, it's amazing how, as a society, we get to this point where you're not supposed to talk about that, right? But when that gets a little bit stripped away, and you actually get to but we don't have the luxury to just be like all fake and woke right now. Like, this is a real problem, and we want real solutions. Right. So that doesn't mean every single person's gonna be a Christian or whatever, but like, that's the room where it's like, you know what, I'm gonna talk to you about my faith. And suddenly everyone's just like, yeah, God actually is a huge part of this.
Absolutely. And it's good that, I'm really grateful that I think it came across as, like you said, not preachy. I'm not hitting you over the head with my faith.
You're telling your story.
But it's just like, that's the answer to your question, that I feel like is the best word of advice. Whether it's necessarily being at church, which I feel like we both know is the best choice.
But community
is so huge. A group of people you can fall back on. That always have your back, and that you're in the foxhole with you. Is so important.
Man, it's got to be so hard because the mental health crisis amongst young people is so high.
So high.
So then you add that, and if they don't have a supportive family, and even if they do, but if they don't, like, man.
No, I know. It's really getting bad. It's really getting bad to the point where I'm like, honestly, emergency medicine, just the ER itself is like half psych issues, I feel, and then half actual medical things. And it's just like, well, not actually, like, there's still a problem, but it's definitely become way more psych, at least in my experience, involved than it was.
Yeah. I think because of that, a lot of people who have issues, they try to find a way around the EM. You know?
Yeah, totally.
Like, can I go?
I mean, dude,
Because they're like, I don't want to go there.
No,
That's
truly.
crazy.
I mean, and then you just end up like having them in holding, waiting for them to be admitted to like a psychiatric evaluation.
They got to be in a room, or they can't.
We had a patient there for 125 hours one time, just waiting to get placed.
Oh gosh,
just sitting in the ER. Like, oh my gosh.
Do you find now, you're studying medicine, you've obviously had a lot of opportunities to even work in the medical field previous to this, and eventually, do you think, obviously you're not working on people with alopecia that much, but if ever, but it helps bridge a gap sometimes where, like, if someone's like, just from a personal bedside, or do you think it will, like, to be able to say, hey, depending on what it is, I get it.
Yeah, I think that's a really great tool in the tool bag that I'll have.
Yeah.
And I think it's one that, I feel like a lot of people who struggle, especially with cosmetic issues, get to have. And at that point, it stops becoming more of a burden, but a privilege to be able to use that and say, hey, listen, like, I too struggled with a lot of these things where people look at you different for a little while, or it's not, sometimes it becomes the elephant in the room where you're like, okay, yeah. And then sometimes, it's a good way to start talking about, like you said, like a good way to bridge the gap, to try to, oh gosh, I guess a good way to relate to people.
Yeah.
A good way to relate.
Yeah. It helps people to see you as human.
Yeah.
And, when you have that kind of, power, authority, whatever word you might want to use, when you're a doctor and practicing medicine, people do look at you like, oh, it's the doctor, right? And there's a little dehumanizing in a good way, probably. I'm not saying like, but like you're like above me in some way, and that's not always helpful. It's good for you to be able to just be like, no, I get. Yeah, you can be more helpful to them when you're able to be like, I'm human too. Man.
Breaks the walls real quick.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, the same thing can happen with pastors, especially when you go down south. Around here, it's kind of a black mark against us, but but within the church, it isn't, right? So you get people who it's one of the constant things I'm trying to do is in preaching and counseling or whatever is make sure people understand, like, I deal with this stuff too.
Yeah,
different ways, different things, but
at the end of the day, you're just a person, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And the more you can help people bridge that gap, the more you can help them.
Absolutely.
Because they're willing to let their guard down and
totally.
not, put their defenses up.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so you also, one of the big things I would assume as a young guy was, man, am I going to be able to get a girlfriend? Or like, what are the girls going to think about this?
Again, that's a part of that affirmation thing where, that's...
Yeah, for sure. But even just like, hey, like at that age, you're thinking not necessarily about marriage, but you're thinking about like, I want a girlfriend. Totally. Right? But that never really was an issue. You've had relationships and currently you're engaged. And was it ever, like when you talked to Ann, and I'm sure you've talked about it, and especially in the beginning, she's just like, that's just who you are?
Yeah, I told Ann I'd give her a little shout out on the podcast, but there you go. But yeah, I think having this, like we talked about a little previously, it really expedites these life lessons that I needed to learn, and one of them being what to look for in a wife, what to look for in somebody. That maybe as a young guy, you're not really focused on,
No.
And through this, I feel like I was able to learn things, qualities about like people that are so valuable, but not maybe necessarily thought about very frequently, at least in a very young guy's mind.
Sure.
You know? And yeah, just the fact that the Lord has blessed me with somebody who just totally upholds everything that the Bible talks about in terms of, you know, what a perfect spiritual woman looks like. It's just been like an incredible blessing.
Yeah.
You know, just finding out like not just what I would want, but like what I truly need. And those sometimes can be very different things in terms of like what you think you want, you know, someone who is a strong spiritual leader, someone who leads with grace, just all these amazing
But
things.
I think it's this would be a better thing to address with her if she was here, right? Is like she can have all of those things, but still say, not really attracted to it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But she clearly is, and has been. And I think the reason I bring it up is anyone who's dealing with something, not alopecia, but it could be balding, or it could be I'm short, or whatever physical characteristic a young man or a young woman is dealing with.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily going to stop an awesome person from loving you and being attracted to you. And I would say for you, it's you know, it's because ultimately what's inside of us and how we are as a person is the most important thing as we get older.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's something that, you know, we've talked about in the past. You know, I sometimes, you know, I feel like also confidence is such a big thing.
Yeah.
You know, you have plenty of bald dudes like The Rock, for example, who kind of just own it, you know? And it's like, I feel like that's such a huge thing for these things. Is confidence just takes you so far.
Yeah.
Just like knowing like, you know what? Like maybe you can like have a little bit of swagger when you walk, kind of deal. Or it's like, you know, you are you're still a beautiful person,
right?
You know, just even if you don't have hair or something like that. And I think, but like you said, like I feel like not having hair can push somebody to look way past that way sooner.
Yeah.
Look at who you for who you are.
Right.
So I think, that's
it's
that's something big, that
especially for for anyone, but the younger, the more you need this lesson is truly is what's inside.
Yeah. I mean, that's
going to carry the
preached all over for a reason, right? Everybody talks about it for a reason. It's so true. And it's like one of those things where, hey, you could listen to this podcast and be like, okay, you know, they heard it again.
I wonder though, I think some people, we might, when we hear that message, especially as kids, what we're hearing is, I need to love Nick for what's inside, you know, or anybody. You need to love me, not my gray hair, but who I really am, you know, my wrinkles or whatever. But I don't think that's what the message necessarily is. It's that that's part of the message, but the other half of it is you're going to be far happier yourself making connections with people who are beautiful on the inside.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Don't try to surround yourself with just superficial pretty people, because you're not going to be happy yourself.
Yeah.
You're going to be way thrive more when you're with someone who's shows godliness and the physical attraction has got to be there if it's a romantic relationship, but it can't be 90%.
Absolutely.
It's got to be just a factor.
Yeah.
Because the rest of it, plus it all goes away anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, guys are going to catch up to you.
There you go.
Just take, like you said, some of your friends
are
are already catching.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. So very few people are looking their best at age 60, you know?
Yeah.
And yet you still have relationships. So you just kind of learn with age, like, no, what's inside is ultimately what matters and what God wants us to focus on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you going to stay connected to the foundation? And
I think, you know, I'd be very grateful to be back and talk more. I think that's just such a great opportunity to help other people, especially in like an area that I so deeply connect with.
Yeah.
You know, through that, I've been able to find some incredible people and some great families. One lives just here, and I think that's the one I'm the closest with. He's a really sweet young boy, lives in Massachusetts. We just saw him the other day, and just, oh my gosh, just a great family. And it's just so cool to be able to be there for, and to, you know, help out if they need anything, just to be there for them.
Yeah.
And I just feel like, you know, empowering, especially these kids that maybe, you know, are going through a tough time, just to empower them to realize, hey, listen, you're awesome, you know?
Right.
You like go, like, continue to not let this bother you, because
Right.
the more you can be confident with it, the less it matters, especially to other people.
Right.
And I think, you know, that's something that this family does a great job with.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Well, that's just a lesson for anyone, right? Like, just if you let people, the stairs, as you said earlier, you know, and we're human, it's going to hurt. I get that, but especially a 14-year-old girl. But the more you're just like, yeah, that doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
They're like, how much can they continue to do it?
Yeah.
Like, eventually they're just going to be like, well, all right.
Yeah.
It's tough at times, but that's the way through. That's the way forward. It isn't to shrink back and hide.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dealing with the problems head on, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, it's gotten you closer to God, you said.
Absolutely.
It's drawn you a lot closer to the Lord.
Yeah.
And man, ultimately that's probably why God said no.
Yeah. And I truly, and I think the friends that I met along the way, I think, you know, my friends currently now, again, just like love me for me.
Yeah.
And I'm just like grateful. I'm grateful to have had that filter already put on, you know? I feel like people who want to be, I don't know, like not that people with alopecia are like cast out and not a part of fun things, but I feel like almost like there's a filter when you meet somebody that's already like, okay, well, if you're really tight with this person, you must not really take superficiality must not be a massive part of
your life,
your friends, your friend group. It's like you clearly look deeper and stuff like that. Right.
So you
get that out of the way.
Get that out of the way.
Yeah.
If they're not going to like me, they're not going to like me right away.
Right.
So let's
Absolutely.
just move it along.
Yeah.
If you're like, oh, it's going to be weird hanging out with someone like that.
Yeah.
It's bald. Okay.
Which I've never really experienced any of that. I feel like people genuinely are just a lot kinder than we give them credit for.
Yeah.
But if someone like that would be worried, I would say not worry at all about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. Because I think one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you is not because we're going to have a ton of people watch this episode that are dealing with that specifically, but so many things are related, and the issues and the emotional issues we go through when we're different, or when we look different, or something happens, or whatever it might be, whether it's permanently or temporarily. And it's like God's got a plan for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he'll use it, and does use it. Yeah. Yeah. He's he wants something so much more for you than hair.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's kind of difficult to tease apart, you know, whether where I'm currently am is solely because of the alopecia. You know, I'm sure that it's a good mixture, but I wouldn't take it back for a second. You know,
is it a big factor why you wanted to get into the medical field?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. My walk with alopecia, I think it was actually the first thing on my my cover letter. I think it was like, I wasn't always bald. But it definitely is a large reason. Going to Boston Children's at a young age and seeing kids from all over the world going there to be healed is such a cool and powerful thing. I just remember, doctors, nurses in their white coats coming down the stairs, and just like what that meant to some of these kids. Yeah. It's like, okay, this person's going to help me. This person's going to make me, be able to, whether it's see another 5 years, or whether, it's like a really rare genetic disorder that only you can go to a really high, like Boston Children's. I mean, they're great for a reason, right?
Right. Of course. Yeah.
But yeah, I think
especially with kids, it's
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
That definitely spurred me to go into medicine. And I think that, had that not happened, I might not be here in med school. And
you're right. It's so much about your life. It's hard to know.
Hard to tease apart.
It is like every big area of your life besides the stuff that was already in place beforehand, your parents and brother and family and stuff like that. But like, you don't know because everything in your life stacks, and it's like these little detours that take place because of this, because of that. It doesn't mean you'd have a bad life. It just means God has done so much with a lot of things in your life, but that being a big one.
Absolutely.
And you know, you think about it, if you were to go back and tell the, you know, 18-year-old, 19-year-old young guy that you were, who's like, this can't happen.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's actually going to bring some awesome things.
Yeah.
And we can really say that about anything in life, right? Whenever God says no. That's the hard part. You really put that well. Like, they prayed, they anointed me, and where is it? Do I not have enough faith? Do I really believe this? Does God really care? Those are always the common questions.
Right, absolutely.
But
questions that I asked, absolutely.
Yeah. But ultimately, that's why God is God, right? He's like,
this might be what you think you want, but it's not what you really need.
Right. I know what we're going to do. And the fun, really cool thing is this story's nowhere near over. So we don't know. Even if you got all your hair back tomorrow, you still have dealt with this. And so what God did in it is going to bring fruit and ramifications as long as you're here. And the amount of people that you'll touch, whether it's kids from the Chicago conference, I mean, those will be obvious examples of I've helped that kid or I've helped that person because of I've gone through it. But you don't even know the other things, like whether it's when you're a doctor or whoever, because of what you've gone through. And I think that's just such a good lesson for any human being, is the things that you think are the worst as you're going through them are the things God uses for the best.
Absolutely.
That doesn't mean you cheer and go, woo, I'm glad I'm going
through
a hard time. But it just means trust the Lord in that.
Yeah. And it's okay to feel down in those moments, right? It's all right to take that and like, gosh, this really is awful. Like, that's part of processing it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you have that undertone, like you said, realizing like, okay, this is happening. Maybe God is not answering your prayer, but he's hearing you. And there is something that is working. He is working. And wherever this is, whether it's in you, whether it's in people around you that are watching you, and how you deal with this burden, there is a reason. And it will come apparent. Maybe it never will to you specifically, but other people.
Right. It's I've told the story before, but like when my mom passed away, I've done so many funerals at that point and since, right? So many that I did a funeral about 2 weeks after that. And it was a family I didn't know. They weren't a church family. I do a lot of funerals with people that are just need someone, right, at the funeral home. And that's a family that I'm pretty sure I'm most connected with of all the funerals that I did, because it was a woman who had passed, and so it was a lot of their mom. And they were similar age, maybe a little older than me, like the kids. But I got up there, and they could just tell. Like, I probably wasn't ready to be doing a funeral. It's like, probably shouldn't have been doing it. But I just connected it, and I just said, I just lost my mom, and I know. And it's like, there was one, I mean, hasn't, because it's now 13 years ago, but for a few years, one of the daughters who lives, I think in Virginia actually, wrote me like a Christmas card, like every like I didn't get that from anyone, right? Which I don't expect, or
No.
But there was such a deep connection, and it all was just because they're like, you get it.
Yeah.
When you're going through grief, you're going through cancer, you're going through, right? That's why your mom does such a wonderful job with the cancer support group in a way that I wouldn't be able to do because I've never had cancer.
She really does. It's an awesome group.
But it's obviously her personality and skills God's given her, but it's also, you get it.
Yeah.
And there's just, you can't replicate that. A lot of times you don't want to.
Right, totally.
Let you get that. I don't want to get that. But you are going to get something.
Yeah.
And it makes you that bridge that you can help people.
Absolutely.
You got to want to, you got to think it matters, and then you got to just let God use you.
Yeah, totally.
And I'm super psyched how much God has already used you in this.
Yeah.
Especially with young people, because it's got to be the worst.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
It's definitely been more. It's much larger than I am. Right. It's something that I'm just super grateful to be a part of, and let the Lord use me through it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, man, thanks for telling your story and praying that God continues to use you. I know He will, especially getting in the medical field. But regardless, it'll just be just another beautiful, like you said, tool that God has given you to help people.
Yeah, I'm super grateful. I'm grateful that you guys had me on the show.
Yeah,
and,
No, it's awesome. And now hopefully educate some people too. When they see someone that looks completely bald, they're like, calm down and not stare at that person.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So, all right, cool. Well, man, I know you're leaving tomorrow, but you'll be back. But have a good Christmas.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, Merry Christmas to you guys too.
Man. Preparing for a wedding too.
I know. It's been a lot.
We're praying for Ann.
It'll be great.
We're praying for Ann, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah, I know. She's taking on a lot, that's for sure.
Nah, it's good. It's good. All right. Thanks a lot. And cut.